what does everyone think of the season 1 finale overall? I think it's a good episode, but it's definitely not my favorite finale.
Renee, go ahead.
So like I actually enjoyed the finale. Like during the time I had where there's only season one, that really got me hooked for what's going to happen in the future season. And really got me thinking like, during that time, Netflix, when are you going to release other seasons? Like, please. But I would say this finale is like a good like wrap up with season one.
Go ahead, Maria.
I sort of liked how they, like Renee said, a nice little wrap up of everything because it sort of closed certain circles and opened up another big one because the whole thing closes and he's got this terrified look on his face. And the last word he says is mom. So it's a good wrap, tying loose ends, and it opens this huge thing leading into the next season.
I love this episode. I love how it opens. I love the ending and literally everything in between. I don't think there's anything I don't like about this episode. I've mentioned before in the last few episodes that we've had with Malcolm and Dan that I love how they dragged that out. I love how it ended. It took me until about midway through to remember that this is the episode that Trixie gets kidnapped, and I immediately was so sad. Does anyone have like a particularly like favorite scene from this, or even a least favorite?
I would say I find it satisfying or amusing that Chloe punched Dan in the face.
You know what my favorite scene is? Okay, although Tom only knows one American accent and it's just the Michael voice, so it makes me like a little weird every time. But when he tells Chloe to stop and like that he's gonna shoot her with their bazooka, I love that scene so much. The voice is funny and it's like, but I love that scene very much.
One of my favorite scenes is when Lucifer and Amenadiel sort of finish beating everybody up, and Lucifer puts his hand on Amenadiel's shoulder, and they get this total uncomfortable moment. It's like, we're getting along. Oh, we're not supposed to. That type of thing. I thought that was really, really nice.
Go ahead, Hudson.
I like the scene when Mace and Chloe went to Malcolm's house, and yes, I like that scene.
Oh yeah, that scene with Chloe and Maze is so good. And I think that's the first time we see Chloe and Maze really team up too. Like Maze had spent the whole season kind of hating Chloe, and she starts it off this episode too, being like, I hate that you exist, like I hate your relationship with Lucifer, but like fine, if it's gonna save and help him, I'll like work with you. And so it's like their first time really working together and teaming up. And then of course when Chloe throws her body on Maze, and Maze is like, oh, now I see why he likes working with you. Like, that's such a great scene. I totally agree. And then the Maria, I agree. That fight that Amenadiel and Lucifer are in, that is one of the best fights. And the music that they used over that scene, I really liked that fight. It's a good fight scene.
My hand keeps disappearing even though I click the button. Anyways, I like how okay, so the whole like sudden flip with Amenadiel has always thrown me off because he like wants to like return Lucifer to hell and he absolutely hates him for like this entire season, and the very last episode just all of a sudden he's like, yeah, you're my brother and I love you and I don't want to drag you back to hell anymore. But I love how we kind of just in an almost very subtle way wrap up all of the like disagreements between Amenadiel and Maze and Lucifer, and they kind of all just come to a point where they're okay with each other. And Maze uses her one chance at going home to save Amenadiel's life, which is just so sweet. And like, I don't care what anybody says. I think that from day one she has a soul. You see a lot of moments like that with Maze, even right from the beginning when she's, just a spiteful little demon. There was something else I was gonna say, but I forget. So Maria and then Renee, go ahead.
Okay, going back to the fight, I really love the choreography that they gave to it, and it's almost like a dance between them, really well coordinated. And even when Lucifer shoots, well, it doesn't shoot Amenadiel. It says, "Sorry, bro, general mistake." And the way they get close and back away, and the last kick Lucifer gives to the guy who's, who's sort of trying to regain consciousness. I just love the lines, the acting, the film, the photography, the dance. And yes, I was going to say also the whole thing about Maze and her soul. She does have it. And I also like the way that the divine light, when she puts the flower and she sacrifices her only way out for Amenadiel, and the way the light just goes on everything.
So just to add in what Maria's saying about the fight, like the way that Lucifer and the Amenadiel fight actually reflects their personality a little bit. So like Lucifer manipulates the enemy's moves or defenses against them. So it's either their guns or the way they plunge. Like Lucifer managed to like weave his movement around them to make them hurt each other rather than hurting him. And for Amenadiel, he just uses his like angelic strength, which represents his ego. And like, okay, so before I forget, like the big thing about this episode is about selflessness, like in the deeds of what these characters are doing. Like, if I remember correctly, we talk about one of the previous episodes where there's some characters who've been doing some selfish things like to that really hurt other characters, but here it has become selfless like now.
The selflessness thing, Renee, that is so beautiful. And I think that really ties into what I was going to talk about, which is going back to Maze saving Amenadiel's life. Like, yeah, she's using her one chance of getting back to hell to save an angel's life. And she doesn't understand what she's doing or why she's doing it, but she saved Amenadiel's life. And I agree that she has a soul from the beginning, but this is also a big part of her developing one, or just like growing her soul, or like just using her soul. Like it's definitely a huge part of her character in that moment. Go ahead, Hudson, and then the host.
So I think Maze actually started growing a soul, like in the moment with Amenadiel. She didn't have a soul from the beginning, but she started growing it in that moment. So yeah, I think that.
I definitely like that point of view too, that she started growing at that moment. Either way, I think that is kind of a pivotal moment for her where her soul is kind of basically manifesting itself. Also, did anyone notice how everyone in this episode had to sacrifice something? Like Lucifer sacrificed his life, and in lesser manners his Pentecostal coin. For Chloe sacrificed, like almost sacrificed Trixie. Like it was kind of an involuntary thing. Dan sacrificed, and kind of gave up this whole ruse that he's had building, and had him like turned himself in. And then Maze gave up her one way home, and Dan, I already went over Dan. Amenadiel gave up like this whole fight with Lucifer and like his pride to fight alongside his brother and make things right. Renee, you can go ahead, and then Maria.
And and this is like one episode where I gotta say this, but Lucifer didn't call Dan Detective Douche. That's because for first time like ever in the series, he's not acting like a douche.
Yeah, that's okay. Dan, okay, he is sort of selfless. He he only gives a partial confession. He only admits to having for taking out of the gun. So it's sort of semi-selfless, but there's still a tinge of selfishness in there in that sense. But yes, I agree. Everybody has to give up something. Although I do think that Lucifer gives up several things. At the beginning of the episode, he gives up on Earth. He gives up on Chloe. He's shattered. And he's willing to give everything up and go back to hell. Then by the end of the episode, then he's willing to give up his own life to protect Chloe.
Okay, so I'm going to change the topic a little bit, just a little bit, because we are talking about Lucifer and Chloe in the beginning, and I have so much to talk about this episode. But so the episode opens with Chloe has her gun on Lucifer, and she says that it doesn't matter what she thinks if he's innocent or not, and he says that that's all that matters is what she thinks of him, and then like he then I don't know. And then when, she's going to arrest him, he's like, well, okay, then I got to go. It's time to leave Earth. If what I came to Earth is over, then I have to leave. Like, all he cares about is what she thinks of him.
And like at this point, like Chloe is a bit of a downfall, and with the police, in her division at least, like not many people believe um with her cases, especially with Palmetto. Like everyone has his downfalls because of this. So like in this pod, she's kind of in like a choice here. So either like fight for like try to stay on Lucifer's side, but in the eyes of the public, Lucifer is not saintly because everyone believes that he killed the preacher that we see in the beginning of the episode. And like Lucifer at this moment is like, oh my gosh, really, you lost faith in me? Like, okay.
Yeah, totally. Like, and Chloe even admits it. Like, she likes working with Lucifer, and so she wants to keep working with him and spending time with him. And then to do so, she needs to clear his name because she can't really work with him if he's a convicted felon. So they have to prove that he's innocent when it comes to the killing of the preacher.
And she's very much aware that Chloe is very much aware that Lucifer thinks he was abandoned, that she abandoned him. And that's why she knows from the beginning that he's innocent. She tells Dan he's innocent. And and this is why her first thought was, how do we prove this guy's innocent? And that's the challenge. And going back to the whole thing about the Palmetto thing and everything, when she sacrifices one of the selfless acts that she does, she's also sacrificing her whole career to save Trixie. Because if they find out that she took the money and blah, blah, gave it to Malcolm, then, she's screwed.
Absolutely agree. She's in trouble that's going back to like the sacrifices that they had to make. Chloe sacrificed her job in order to save her daughter. I mean, there's no other choice to me. She did have to make a sacrifice in that moment. But I want to talk about, so this is Malcolm's last episode, and he's really the star of this episode. Everything revolves around him. So in the beginning, Lucifer and Amenadiel, like their big goal is to find Malcolm and send him back to hell. And then by the end of the episode, they succeed in doing that. And it's a long journey of chasing Malcolm in order to get him back to hell.
And this is the moment where Linda learned who Amenadiel actually is, which is Lucifer's brother. And she feel very betrayed, also confused because like Lucifer, who is a white British man, he's a brother to a black American man. Like for us, we know because they're angels, but for a normal person, it's kind of confusing. Like, so in their mind, it might one of them might be adopted, but nope, they're just their actual brothers.
The thing too, okay, we're sort of going off. The other thing too is that nobody knows the truth about them. Linda hasn't seen Lucifer's face yet. She doesn't really know it yet. But going back to Malcolm, his evilness is just so. He keeps on being that icky guy, and his evilness is so. When he gets him in a deal with the blade, he even like screws it in and do that. The only thing I don't get is that he's very careful with Trixie, which is something I wouldn't believe of him. That scene has always gotten me because he puts her down with a lot of care, and he also repeats Lucifer's line, What's not there to like?"
That's interesting to think that he didn't hurt Trixie, but I mean, he only took Trixie in order to hurt Chloe, so maybe it was like, I can't hurt the collateral damage. I don't know. But I do want to just quickly comment on the turn in the Lucifer Amenadiel relationship, because I had written down that, so Lucifer has Malcolm like in his sight, and he literally lets Malcolm go in order to stop and save Amenadiel. And so that's kind of like a shocking moment of like, oh, he actually does have a heart. He actually does care about his brother. He doesn't want his brother to die in order to get rid of this bad guy. And so I definitely think that that was a pivotal point in their relationship of saving his brother and letting the bad guy go temporarily.
Uh, yeah. Back to the Malcolm thing. The other thing I don't know if people noticed, while Chloe's talking to Trixie, Malcolm in the background, he's making all of these faces. He shoots himself. This whole thing. I think he's acting up. I know it's gross. I know it's a Nikki character, but I really think it's funny that he's sort of acting out in the background, kind of blurry.
I think it kind of links to the phone call they had just before this. So like Malcolm gives Trixie the phone. They only asked, let's say, like few sentences to each other and went, "All right, that's enough." And during that bit, like what you're saying, I think he's like growing impatient. Like at this point, like come on, let's hurry up. Like enough with this family bonding. I need my money. Like he's so impatient.
I thought this whole Malcolm scene, like the ending, was so much funnier when you know that he dies at the end. Like, it was so much funnier to watch it because you know, like, Malcolm's going to die, so I don't care what he does.
That is really funny. You know he's going to die, so you don't care what he does. That's really funny. Yeah, I think watching that scene knowing how it ends, and then I'll come back to this, but like watching that scene knowing how it ends, and then watching that scene knowing where like the whole series goes, like that whole kidnapping scene, is it's a very good scene, and I think it's a good way to end the season one. Yeah, anyone else have anything to say right now?
I like to point out something I noticed as I rewatched the that scene with Malcolm, Chloe, and Trixie, and soon later Lucifer in the hangar. I've seemed to notice that the hangar, like how it's set, kind of reminds me of hell. I mean, with the blue tint lighting, it's really dark, and when the characters go through like a little storage area, it kind of reminds me of being in the corridors of hell. And the only thing that's missing is the raining ash. Like, have you guys noticed that detail?
No, I hadn't noticed it, although yes, the lighting is very similar. Um, the other thing is that when Lucifer Mojo's Malcolm, uh, this is the only time he says yearn, which which later on season 5 is used in Lieutenant Diablo. And yeah, and Malcolm is really evil. He wants pain. He wants to hurt. He's really swallowed by evil. And even that whole scene where Malcolm is calling Chloe as if it were a kitty, hey Chloe, Chloe, Chloe. I think it's really ooh.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, yeah, Malcolm he is pure evil, and he's really like just a nasty guy. I mean, just in this episode, he stabs Amenadiel with Maze's blade. I mean, he kidnaps Trixie and threatens to kill her if Chloe doesn't give him the money. I mean, he wants. It's interesting. He wants what he wants, and he wants it now. But he wants to live, and he wants life, and he wants to enjoy life. And so why is he doing all these things that are either going to get him killed or sent to jail if all he wants is to live? I think that's interesting.
Another thing that comes out with Malcolm, but it also echoes throughout the episode, is this whole idea of a second chance. Lucifer gets a second chance. Amenadiel feels that he gets a second chance. They ask Malcolm, what are you going to do? This is what you're doing with your second chance. So that's whole second chance things comes up now and then, now and again.
I totally agree. It's all about second chances. I mean, the end of the episode, right? So y'all can explain to me what exactly happened here because I'm not sure what happens here. So Lucifer dies. He's shot by Malcolm and he dies and he goes down to hell. And then his dad brings him back to life and gives him a second chance on Earth. Like, my question is, how is Lucifer brought back to life? Because we know that angels can die because Uriel does. So how did Lucifer come back to life? Like, he came as close to death as possible, and same as Malcolm before, and then God brought him back up. Like, how did he come back to life? That's my question.
Okay. As I watched that scene, I actually gained a theory, and I'd like to your guys hear your thoughts on this. But what if that coin that Lucifer holding, like before Malcolm, that's not Malcolm's coin? That's another another Pentecostal coin. Uh, we don't know where the coins come from, but I kind of assume it came from hell. I mean, I think that's where he got it. Because Lucifer can't go to heaven anyway. Um, Malcolm was confident that he'll come back. He's got his coin, and what if Malcolm accidentally misplaced his coin in his pocket, or while he's searching for Chloe, it got lost somehow, like fell out of his pocket, and Lucifer like, "You're looking for this?" Malcolm's like, "How?" Um, Lucifer didn't say that he took the coin from him. Because that's one thing about Lucifer. He leaves some stuff out by not saying it, right? So when he used that coin, Lucifer made Malcolm thinks that he used his coin. So it might probably be still in his pocket or something. And Malcolm died while that other coin is still on him. But that's my theory. Like, I'd like to hear what you guys think.
The way I always saw it was that there's only one, or there can only be one in an earthly realm at any time, because we never just see them laying around in abundance, obviously. And it's kind of a get out of jail free card, like, so you're only going to get so many of those. So the way I saw it is that Malcolm had it, and then when Lucifer died and he was asking God, whatever you want from me, I'll do it. Just, save Chloe, please. Which, by the way, I'm literally going to cry if I ever have to watch that scene again. So the way I see it is that, Lucifer's dad, God, whatever you want to call him, um, in a way took that coin from Malcolm. Because, I mean, you see at the end, it burns up, it turns to ash. Um, so I say it that God took the coin in a similar fashion, um, and it just appears in Lucifer's pocket, because there's literally no other way for Lucifer to get it, unless he steals it. There's another ways that he could have stolen it while they were, you know, discussing things, because he was right up close to Malcolm. So I think that he could have also stolen it off of him. And then when he comes back, Malcolm realizes that it's missing, and then it he uses it. God brings Lucifer back, but I also think that in a sense he does it using the Pentecostal coin, because Lucifer made that deal. Like, he said, I'll do whatever you want if you save Chloe. So he's not going to try and bring himself back. He made that deal, and the arrangement was that he would do what was asked of him. And obviously, him going down to hell, he probably automatically assumed that that's what his father wanted of him. So I don't see it as Lucifer would have tried to bring himself back, but more so that his father would have brought him back using the coin.
Yes, I totally agree. And remember, when Lucifer shows the coin to Malcolm, and excuse me, Malky, and he says, Malcolm is sort of surprised that where did he get it? And Lucifer says, I know a guy. So I agree with Madame Host that it really is God's plan, which is what they're constantly talking about this, to bring the escaped jailbird from there. And I also can't get over that Lucifer's evil grin watching Malcolm die, because it really is the first time I've seen Lucifer with that. He's so happy this evil guy's going to die. Yeah, I don't know how to say it.
I agree with, and I love all of these theories. So at first I was like, oh, is it like a trick coin, like a magician? Like, I gave Malcolm a fake one. I still held on to the real one. But I also hear what you were saying, which is like, no, God kind of moved the coin from Malcolm's pocket into Lucifer's pocket and then brought back Lucifer. But it occurred to me, so Lucifer says that he will do whatever God wants if God protects Chloe. But what God wants is for Lucifer to go down to hell, see that his mother has escaped, and then come back onto Earth and bring his mother back to hell. That's what God wants. Okay, come back to life.
You're breaking up a lot, Kim.
Okay, sorry, but he's saying that you come back to life, and then I'll save Chloe, and you go find your mom. Go ahead, Renee.
Just another thing, back in episode 11, Lucifer says to Malcolm, "It's all yours if you don't shoot me." And in this episode, Malcolm shoots Lucifer. Did that kind of break the deal and the coin magically move to Lucifer's pocket later on? But that's just another idea.
That's actually brilliant. Yeah, that would make sense. That it's sort of like the devil's contract, right? Like, if you sign a contract with him, there's set rules, and if you break the rules, then whatever you have gets taken away. It's like the classic Rumpelstiltskin policy, isn't it? There's a contract you sign, and if you go against it, you lose what he's given you. So yeah, that's actually makes perfect sense to me, that he shoots Lucifer, he's going back on their deal, so he loses the coin that was given to him as part of their arrangement. And to me, that would make perfect sense for it to just reappear back in Lucifer's pocket there. And then that's Lucifer's get out of jail free card via his father. Kim, go ahead.
Sorry, Maria, you can go right after me. That makes so much sense, right? So the deal was, you don't kill me, you can have the coin. You kill me, well, the coin goes back to the original owner, which is Lucifer, and then Lucifer comes back to life. That makes a ton of sense. Go ahead, Maria.
Love the theory. It does make a lot of sense. The other thing about this scene that I really love is the photography. It's kind of blurry. So here, Lucifer is on his back, and then it's he finishes talking to his dad, and he flips face down in hell. It's really cool the way they did it. So he flips out in hell, and then they flip up the screen so he's walking, and the lighting, everything is blurry. The shock when he sees that somebody left hell, and then his appearance back. But I really love the scene, the transition between Earth. One moment he's on Earth, and then he's on hell, and how he like flips. I really thought that very artistic.
Okay, I'm gonna change the topic like just a little bit, because we are talking about the end of the episode and we're jumping around tonight, and I'm sorry about that. But okay, I want to talk about the big finale with the kidnapping. Spoilers for season 6 if you haven't seen season 6, though I believe everyone here has. Um, I feel so bad for Chloe. Okay, people are always kidnapping her children and using them against her. But in this one, like, it made me kind of sad that, like, Malcolm's like, and you can't tell Lucifer and he can't follow you. Um, and, like, so she had to do it all on her own and all secretive. And, like, I had to pause because my brain, like, literally broke. So I was like, wait. So I felt like a lot of parallels between this finale and the series finale. So in this one, Chloe goes alone to rescue her daughter who's been kidnapped and tells Lucifer to stay. And then in the season 6 finale, they go together to rescue their daughter who has been kidnapped. And he tells her to stay, but she doesn't. And like the scene where they're arguing over, no, Lucifer, stay. No, like you have to let me go alone. Like it made me very much flash forward to the series finale, and like it was very much the same scene but different. Did anybody else get feelings of like parallels there?
Yes, a little bit of a parallel there. I really love that Chloe gives Lucifer like a last look, and when he gives her his word that he's not going to follow, and you can see his look going from concern to mad as hell when she leaves. Uh, so yes, there is the parallel between that, and they have sort of the same conversation. A little parenthesis here. I also love that shot I thought this was, I don't know why, but I was noticing all the artistic photography or scenes. The shot where Chloe um, hangs up, and then the camera sort of goes out, and then you have the music. You're the rough detective with the smoky eye, and she walks out and she gets the bag of money. I thought that was really cool. And yes, Lucifer knows that it's wrong. By the way, another little mini parentheses. In the background, which is going to the parking lot, that's the Dorothy Townsville Pavilion. Kim, sorry, Madame Host, and the Disney Concert Hall. Okay, and the American accent is spot on for one of those the typical cop shows. I didn't hear it so much as Michael at that point, but the same cop shows, get out of your car, hands up, license, registration, that type of thing.
I just wanted to add that. Oh, Renee, I'm so sorry. You can go next. I promise. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Maria, I just wanted to say that first of all, no worries because I already took her list and crossed off like 18 locations that we're no longer going to. Because she cannot control herself. Second, I just want to, like, no offense to Tom or anybody else, but I just want to know why, if he was capable of doing a normal American accent, why does Michael sound like that? Like, I literally, nails on chalkboard, cannot stand Michael's accent.
Oh yeah, so like the writers of the show, they love to do parallels. And another parallel is what happens to that villain in those episodes. they got shot by Chloe like a couple times before they die. So, but I guess for your question, host, about why like Michael's American accent, like he just don't want to make Michael sound very unlikable. Like we don't want to like Michael as much as we love Lucifer. And Tom did say did mention in one of his interviews that when he tried to do an American accent as Lucifer, it made Lucifer sound like a dick. like but if he says it in the British accent, in the same words, it actually makes Lucifer sound more charming. So that's why he goes for that British accent, and why Michael goes American.
Yeah. To Madam Host's question, we're not supposed to like Michael's accent. He is a dick. We're not supposed to. So I think this is the whole thing. Another thing, okay, I'm going to go another word. Another theme that resonates in addition to selflessness is this whole idea of trust. Lucifer trusts Amenadiel to help him out to catch Malcolm. Chloe asks Lucifer to trust her. So, that would be incredible, impulsive, and short-sighted. Have you noticed that's my jam? But you have to trust me. And he trusts, and then he has to trust Dan. Chloe has to trust that she'll be able to trust herself, and she also has to trust Maze, and Maze has to trust Chloe when they go to Malcolm's place. And Amenadiel has to trust Maze in saving him. So that's another little underlying motif, I think.
I love everything that everyone is saying. I totally agree with that trust thing. Like, not only are we seeing new pairings with, Maze and Chloe and Lucifer and Dan, and we're seeing these characters interact and grow with each other in different ways, but it is about their relationships growing and having to trust each other when it's like all on the wire and Lucifer's gonna like go to jail. Like, they have to trust each other to get through this. And so I totally agree with that. Going back to the parallels thing that I'd started, though, yeah, I totally wrote in my notes that Chloe riddles Malcolm with bullets, just like she does in the series finale with that guy. So that's a parallel there. And then there was another one. Maybe my brain was just like playing tricks on me, but and I was like, please shut up, brain. But so Chloe tells Trixie to go hide and we're gonna play a game, and Trixie doesn't want to go, and she doesn't want to leave her mommy because she's scared and doesn't know what's gonna happen. And that gave me vibes of like, I don't know, like Lucifer not wanting to leave Chloe because she might die and that might be the last time he sees her. And like, just I felt a lot of parallels between this big season finale fight and the series finale fight.
Yeah. Can I point out something here that this episode, this is where Dan and Amenadiel like meet up for the first time.
In Dan's office.
Right. Yeah, that's right. In Dan's office. And Dan is also kind of shocked as to what's going on. As he says later on, what a weird family.
I do have more to talk about. I mean, I literally wrote like 5 pages of notes here. So, I don't know. I want to talk about Malcolm just a little bit more because, you're right. Like, he's nasty, but like he's also really funny. So in that scene where they're all like running around the warehouse in the beginning when he's getting the money, I think it's really funny that so Chloe's like on like the bottom level and then there's a top level and you see Malcolm just like run past her. I thought that was really funny. And okay, and we haven't talked about Linda at all. And yes, we have a little bit. Like, she still doesn't know that anybody, like, she still believes that Lucifer is telling her these like what's a good word? Like analogies, and like it's not all real. But I thought the whole, so like she really believes that Amenadiel like lied about being a therapist in order to like use her. And so I thought that whole scene was really funny, and she like yells at him to shut up, which that was really funny. And also I thought it was funny that literally like the first opportunity, I feel like Lucifer brings everyone to therapy. He's like, okay, brother, we need to go see my therapist. Like, let's go. Like, we need to talk this out. He goes to therapy with everybody.
Okay, going back to Malcolm, I love the whole idea when he grinds the blade into Amenadiel. He says, "Not so tough, Amenadude." I thought that was a hilarious scene. Uh, the whole that thing. Um, yeah, with Dr. Linda, if you also notice, everybody has to go to therapy, and yes, they do lie to her. Amenadiel is not a therapist; he's using her, and she has every right to be pissed at him. When they go into Dr. Linda's office, I really find it funny that they're sitting close to each other on the couch. I find that hilarious because when he's gone with other people, Amenadiel's in the corner and Lucifer is like pushed up against him. When Lucifer goes with his father, they're on opposite ends of the couch. When he goes with Rory, uh, and um, and Chloe, they're all separated. Even when he goes with Candy, they're holding hands, and when they're going with Eve, they're also sitting close together. Well, with Eve, it's a little different. She's sort of on top of him, but he is totally on top of Amenadiel, and everything is like going and going. You see, you see, you see. And I love Linda. Well, two things in that scene. One where Linda starts talking about the metaphors, and Lucifer advised him in a deal, don't even start on that one. And when they rush out, I love the way Linda closes the session with that. Yep.
And like those are like really good points about the separation between the Lucifer and the other characters when you took them to therapy, which is the thing is like when you go to therapy, you go on your own along with your therapist because it's kind of a personal thing. But nah, Lucifer is being open as always, so just bring people along. And for you mentioned Maria about people separating on the couch, I think it's like kind of the idea or like a how do I say this? So like a minute. I just got an example here. So Amenadiel and Lucifer wants to bring Malcolm to hell. Like they try to be on the same page, so they're like close together. Um, with Lucifer and Rory and Lucifer and his dad, like they have some issues, like big issues. So it's like I'm not going to be near you, like at this point. Um, that's just something, and something I got to say. Uh, but one thing, Linda did brought up like one of the funny things about Lucifer in therapy is like every time you got like a realization, you just went the exact wrong direction, which is kind of a common thing that Lucifer does on the show.
Yeah, I feel like that might be like the first time where it's like where she like says out loud, like every time you come to a realization, you go the wrong way. And then he comes to a realization, he goes the wrong way, and then he leaves immediately. Like, yep, all the ways with the exit. But I literally have so many random notes here. So like I'm just gonna go through a couple of them. Um, so this is something that's been talked about. I've seen on my timeline before. So in this episode, Lucifer interrupts a funeral and starts like, dragging apart like the practice of funerals and like what's the point of a funeral. But then spoiler, we go to the end of season 5 and he's a big part of Dan's funeral later on. So like being on Earth and being with the humans and like making friends with humans, like it changes his um mentality, I guess, on how life works and all of that stuff.
um, can I point out like an Easter egg here? So the funeral director, you might find that his full name is Neil Palmer, and you see like Palmer on the like the sign in the background. It kind of it's an Easter egg to the creator of the comics that Lucifer comes from, which is Neil Gaiman, hence the first name Neil, and Palmer that comes from Neil's wife Amanda Palmer. So that's kind of a cool Easter egg with one of the creators.
Cool. Never knew that one. By the way, who is the actor giving the eulogy? Is that the guy from Cheers? Okay, a very old, I think it was in the 80s series or something like that with Ted Danson.
I have no idea. Hold on while I look that up. While I look that up, let me get you started on something else here. So in the scene where they're all in the warehouse and Malcolm's getting the money, and I'm like, okay, great, Lucifer's here, and then and then Chloe shows up, and I'm like, okay, well that's great. The detective's here, and he's gonna get hurt, and he's going to get hurt because she's there. And I'm like, if not physically, then emotionally. And she points a gun at him again. Like, he gets hurt again. Even if it's not physically, he still is on the other side of her gun and not the pretty side. Go ahead, Maria.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. She pulls a gun on him yet again. The other thing, what kind of crime boss is so dumb like Tommy? Tommy's just so dumb. He sends both of his guys out and he stays there with Malcolm, and he knows Malcolm is a dirty cop and will turn on anybody, for anything. I thought that was kind of like a stupid move, but that's just me.
Maybe it's a development thing. So like before Malcolm died, he's a different person to he was like back then. And after he come back, he kind of developed like more unhinged. So from that perspective, Tommy might think that this is the same guy that I knew before he died. Like, because they did mention like I thought you were dead, and like, well, you can't keep a good man down. So Tommy probably didn't realize how Malcolm has changed since his experience from hell.
Another thing that I saw was that when Lucifer Mojo's Dan, he was surprised to find that Dan was a complicated one. And this also is repeated when when Dan gets a hold of Azrael's sword, and he's surprised that Dan is fighting it. So I think this is like a glimpse into Dan's complicated growth, even though I know, Kim, you're not a big fan of him in season one. But I think it is a glimpse that Dan is more than he appears to be.
I'm quite fascinated that you mentioned this. Like, when Lucifer did his power on Dan, he said like, "I want to redeem myself," and as we know, like all the way to season 6, like Dan's in hell trying to redeem himself. So I think it's like he has like a big redemption going on throughout the seasons. If I had to be honest.
Sorry, I was still looking up if that guy was on Cheers. No one from Cheers, but when I was going through, I did find that someone actually was on an episode of Rush, so I thought that was funny. So we're talking about Dan right now. I don't know if I have anything left in my notes to say about Dan. I do. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't not like Dan at this point. I definitely he grew on me, funnily enough, after he died. um, but no, you're right. Like, he is stronger than you might think. Because when Lucifer like tries to get out of him, like, what does he want? At first, it's like, oh, you're tougher than you seem, but then he finally gets it. But yeah, Dan has quite a journey throughout the entire series. That's what I will say. But just going back through my random notes here, um, but I thought it was funny that Lucifer kept disappearing. Like he disappeared at the beginning when they were at Lux, and then he disappears from Dan. And I like the shot of so Lucifer disappears, Menadil's wings fly away, and then you just see all of the papers on Dan's desk just kind of go floating down. I thought that was funny. I want to talk about Trixie for just a hot second here. I love that she doesn't like Malcolm, and she says it like straight up. She's like, I don't like you. And then I don't think this is the first time we hear Chloe call Trixie Monkey, but I think that's such a cute nickname. And I was thinking like, where would that have come from? And I'm like, well, maybe when Trixie was really little, she like climbed all over Chloe, and so she just started calling her Monkey. I thought that was really cute. And just another like tiny little detail that I liked. So when Lucifer shows up at the big finale scene, and he throws a paper plane in to get Malcolm's attention, there's like a little devil drawn on the paper plane. I thought that was funny.
So like for the nickname, yeah, like Chloe's father calls Chloe Monkey, so she bring it down for to give a nickname to her daughter. And also like with the paper plane, that's like really out of nowhere kind of motion. Like where is that? Like that doesn't fit with what's going on around here, especially with the like and the fact there's a devil in it. Like, oh, but it's like Lucifer is like a really good shot. I mean, like the airplane is like coming from their side, but Lucifer appears right behind Malcolm. So Lucifer, I gotta say, must have a really good shot with paper planes.
I think the whole paper plane situation was so random. Like imagine he having like out of nowhere a paper plane and drawing a devil on it and just I don't know, it was very random.
It is random, but I think it's cute. But also, I think they're at like a hangar, right? Where like planes go. So it kind of makes sense that he would have a paper plane. But it's like, where'd you get a piece of paper between rushing behind Chloe and getting here? Where'd you find a piece of paper to then make into a plane? Like, it is very random. So we haven't really talked about this because the host doesn't really want to talk about this. But like, okay, Lucifer's like dying words. Like, all he wants is for Chloe to live. And it goes back to the pilot, right? Where she's like, I don't want to die. And he says, I won't let you. And like, it's the whole series, right? Is like, all Lucifer wants is for Chloe to live a long, healthy life. And that is literally his dying wish.
And also, like since the pilot, this is the first time since then that Lucifer uses Chloe's name, like, which just make it even more powerful. Like, in casual or like normal conversations, Lucifer just says like detective, like detective, but he used her actual name, like.
This goes back to the selflessness. He doesn't understand it, but he's willing to give everything up to protect Chloe. And another one of the topics that has been coming up all the time, protecting each other, trust, selflessness, and even when they meet, he's so pleased that they're reunited when they find them looking after, but when he's talking to his father, he is willing to put everything on the line, and I think he's being very honest with himself and of course his father, but more than anything with himself, and saying that everything is worth it. I will go, just take care of Chloe.
You both are absolutely correct, Renee. He only says Chloe in like, very important moments. Like only when like it's coming from the heart and it matters. That's when he says Chloe, and so that's true and that's beautiful. And I didn't pick up on that. And then Maria, like you're absolutely correct. I love the themes of this series, and I think that's why I like it so much. Maybe is because like it is about like honesty, trust, selflessness. Like the theme throughout the series is just it's such a good show with such like deep meanings and stuff. Going off of that though, okay, before I get to this part, so the episode ends with Lucifer coming back to life, and he and Amenadiel are sitting in the penthouse, and he says that God, like basically that Dad gave me a new mission, and what is it? Or that somebody has escaped hell, and he has to find them, and that it's Mom, and that's where it ends for season 2. And we'll get into this more in season 2, but so how did and we'll get into this more, but like how did the goddess end up in hell? So what did God get mad at her so he sent her to hell, or did she run to hell to get away from him? I guess we'll find out next season. But I think that's so interesting that you would, before you would watch the show, you would think like, oh, God and goddess, they rule over everything together, but then you find out that they're actually separate, and that the God is in hell while God is up in heaven. And we'll get more into that next season.
I don't know if I'm missing any context, 'cause I probably am, because I only heard half of what you said, but God sent her to hell. Like, just how he cast Lucifer out, he sent her to hell too.
So I just gotta mention this. It's on the bloopers, by the way, for season 1. But like, you know that that line where Amanda goes, "Who escaped hell?" On the blooper, Lucifer says, "Donald Trump," which actually, which is actually a very good joke for the cast. I mean, like, what if Donald Trump actually comes from hell? But this is still a really good joke.
I love it, Renee. I love it. Yes, host. I was saying that we'll get into more of that in season 2, but thank you for reminding me because I literally forgot how she ended up in hell. Just real quick, because I don't know how I missed this part, but I want to go back real quick to Dan confessing to Chloe, even if it's not a full confession. Like he tells her everything that he did, that he shot Malcolm to protect her. And then Chloe, I love this line. She's very upset, and she says, "You let them think I was crazy. You let me think I was crazy." After she punches him, that's a really good scene between Chloe and Dan, and we kind of skipped over it, so I want to just bring that right up.
Yeah, Dan does give Chloe a full confession. He only partially confesses in the precinct, where he only says he wants to confess that he took a gun away from evidence. But Chloe knows the whole story, and that's why she's so pissed. And at the same time, she understands she doesn't want to, he's got to make it right. There's nothing she can really do about it. She's pissed, and if he wants to make amends, he's the one who's got to make it right and help prove that that Lucifer is innocent. And that slap that just boggles his head is he so deserves it.
Like we don't actually see like Dan like telling Chloe the story, but because we're with other characters at this point. But the thing is, we already know, so we don't need like a recap. So that's what like where that I say punch, because this is like a really big, like it sounds like a very big punch noise to me. and and the fact that this is kind of the way Chloe says it, like you make me think that I crazy. You made me think that I was crazy. That is that kind of like gaslighting, like make you think that you're responsible, but really you're not. They just. But I think that that's kind of similar to what Lucifer might be feeling. Like make them think it's my fault. Like make them think I was doing something wrong. Like, and also the way that Lucifer. I mean, no, that Chloe says like yeah, you don't get to be sorry, you can't take it back. I kind of imagine like if that what Dan's really guilty for, I feel like for Dan's hell loop, like he might hear Chloe saying this to Dan, make him even more guilty, because what we all know, what really sends you to hell is guilt. So hearing this kind of makes you feel even more bad.
Everything you just said was so good, Renee. I totally agree. And now I forget why I agree. I'm so sorry. But I totally agree that it's gaslighting, right? Like that is what it is. Like she believes this and Dan, who knows the truth, is like, "Oh no, you don't know what you saw, Chloe. The whole precinct doesn't believe anything that you saw." And so she thinks that she's crazy. That is the definition, I think, of gaslighting. And so yeah, I totally agree with that. And then I love that you kind of paralleled that with Lucifer, which like making him think that everything is his fault, even when it's not, or this whole murder situation is your fault, Lucifer, even though it's not. Like, what is going on right now? It's just like everyone is trying to kind of pull the wool over their eyes, even though they know the truth. And like, I totally agree with what you just said.
And again, something that we talked about before, Dan, when Chloe asks why, Dan says, "I wanted to protect you." And again, this whole idea of protection that we've discussed before, Chloe doesn't need anybody to protect her. And that she has made it clear. But Dan feels the need to do that. And I think this is one of his biggest mistakes in their relationship, probably. And, Lucifer makes that mistake, but, they sort of figure it out. But this whole idea of protecting each other, another one of the themes.
The thing about you mentioned about protecting Maria, like if Dan actually protecting Chloe during that time when he shot Malcolm for the first time, he would like go immediately towards Chloe, make sure he's okay. But no, he just like hide the truth, the not revealing anything. So it's kind of, so like at that point he's more protecting of his reputation, or the fact that he's a dirty cop. As a matter of fact, like in the beginning. So, but here, like when he turns himself in, he did something that's really selfless in this episode.
Absolutely agree. He was physically protecting Chloe, but then after he does that, he immediately protects himself and his reputation and his job. And really, I mean, she is his wife at that moment. And he's like, well, I choose my job over my wife and my family, which has been his thing this whole season. Like, oh, we're going to have taco dinner. No, I have to work. Like, that is his thing. Like, physically, he will not let anything happen to Chloe, but he will choose his job over his marriage, and that's why they got divorced.
When he explains to Chloe, he says, "I did it to protect you." It's also, he's comping out. It's also his little excuse for that. And he's a very, yes, he is a complicated figure on this whole journey of redemption and blah, blah, blah. But he seems to be the character who is most tempted or walking the tightrope between good and evil. Yeah, he's sort of like a dirty cop, but he does good things. And in one of the episodes, when which one is it? It's an episode. It's in season 3. It's when Neil Gaiman is God, and it's like the alternate universe of Chloe, and Dan is a totally dirty cop, and Charlotte Richards, and the whole thing. He is the one who sort of falls into a life of crime. He seems to be the one who is most tempted and who you see fight to do the right thing. Even later on, when they get back at Dan in season 5, yes, with the setup. He's trying to help people, but he's doing things wrong, and it's hard for him to say no.
I totally agree. Like when you said that he was teetering the line between good and evil or good and bad, I immediately thought of the alternate universe episode where it's like if he makes a couple different decisions, he becomes this, I don't want to say bad guy, but like this bad guy. And that's why he ends up in hell. Like, I don't think it's a surprise that Dan ended up in hell when you see where he started. He started with, yes, he was protecting Chloe, but then he also protected himself by shooting Malcolm. And so, like, it's a journey to figure out exactly what his guilt was, but, like, I'm not surprised that he ends up in hell.
I'm not sure. By the time by the time he dies, uh, he's already changed a lot. He's already chosen the straight and narrow, and it's really hard for him, and it's cost him so much work. It's just like when Charlotte dies, but well, she's trying to be good, and this whole thing about tiny victories. What do I have to do? Be Mother Teresa. I think this is Dan's road of tiny victories, trying to do that. So by the time he's killed, this is why nobody understands why he's in hell. We're totally leaving the but okay, if Dan dies at this point, definitely hell. Okay. But I do think it shows part of his process of his own redemption. Later on, I think in season 5, I think it's a completely different story.
I agree with what you're saying. I don't know. I think it just depends on how you view things, like personally as a person. I feel like, if even if you screwed up like 10 years ago, like if you did something really bad, you're gonna pay for it at some point. But I totally hear like the like road to redemption thing, and that's what he figures out when he is in hell, is how does he redeem himself in order to get back up to heaven and redeem himself like Charlotte did. But yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. With that being said, does anybody else have anything they want to talk about with this episode? Any favorite lines, any favorite scenes, anything we missed?
I kind of already mentioned about an Easter egg in regards to the funeral director, but do any of you notice any other maybe Easter eggs or like something cool like that?
No, I wrote down all the ones that I got. I'm like really bad at like paying attention to like the tiny details and stuff like that.
One more thing that I notice is that when Chloe is with Maze, Maze is really jealous, but she's still loyal. She's noticed a change with Lucifer and Chloe. But even then, she realizes that both of them really know Lucifer, and this is like the first step to getting to know each other, and I think it's really important. She goes as backup, and they have different styles, but they agree, and you get to shoot people. um, they start finding common ground in there, and I think that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I really like that scene. And then Maze says that she's glad she didn't kill Chloe in her sleep. I thought that was really funny. But yeah, Chloe keeps reminding Maze, like, I have a gun and I like to shoot people. But Chloe is also honest. I forgot what it was, but like, she is honest about why she's a cop. She doesn't like seeing guilty people get away with like doing bad things. I worded that terribly, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I quite like that detail, and like Maze is getting that look like, oh, we're not so different after all. Like we kind of have a similar attributes. Um, but also there's a one thing that kind of like kind of out of the kind of noticed like Malcolm's wife they refer to her as Mel, and it kind of got me thinking like that's like a very similar name to what you call Malcolm, which is Mal, or so it's like they both have very similar names. Like, did you guys notice that?
I sort of didn't really pay much attention to that. But yeah, I could see. I also thought it was a little bit strange in that scene. Uh, Maybe because Mel was all shaken up, but she doesn't. In the other episode where Mel throws Chloe out and she's really from the hospital, and this time, maybe because she's shaken out and she doesn't know what's going on with Malcolm, but her reception, the way she receives him, is completely different. And another little thing that at the very beginning of the episode is that Lucifer gives up because he's looking for a good death, which I find kind of what? He's the devil looking for a good death. What's going on here?
There's quite a thing you mentioned about Mel and Chloe, like because Mel was like very cold to Chloe back there, like back at the hospital. But here she's really she's scared like for her life. Like she has a gun, like shooting, um, at Maze and Chloe. Like she's really scared. Maybe it could maybe like Malcolm like go all like chaotic, like or like psychotic around her, and that she could feel the need to um, defend herself. Also, what you said about Lucifer wants to find a good death, like he did say like why don't we add one more murder to the pile, right? And he just goes to a cop like, you newbie, why don't you like what was it? It's like um then you get a good beer and feel better about yourself, and like then Chloe's like, no, don't shoot him, he's unarmed. And they're like, oh, you don't know that, maybe I have a gun. And that really suits that cop off. Like Chloe was really feared for Lucifer at that for her life at that point.
Yeah, you mentioned that scene in the beginning. I really do love that scene, how she says to not shoot him. He doesn't have a gun. Like, yes, it's the law. I'm pretty sure. But, like, she doesn't want him to get hurt. It's like, don't shoot him. He doesn't have a gun. Like, she's trying to protect him while also doing her job at the same time. And I really like that scene.
One more thing that I find is interesting, the very last scene that they have, uh, Lucifer is terrified of his mom, the person who escaped from hell. So you have the shocker that the goddess, although in Judeo-Christian tradition, there is no goddess really, but okay. But okay, so you have this goddess thing. First of all, you have the shock that Lucifer has a mom that you don't really hear about in traditional religious stuff. And the fact that he's terrified of her. He's really scared. He's shaking. He's sort of shaking. And you don't really associate that with moms. You have this whole idea of, mommy, mommy, I love you. And he seems to be more afraid of his mother than his dad. He has this whole rebellion. He goes against dad. He spits in God's face, in the past. He humbles himself now to protect Chloe, but he's really, really scared of mom. And it sort of ends there, and you're left wondering why.
I totally agree. That's interesting with the whole, like, fear of his mom. And I think that's interesting. You parallel, so Chloe and Trixie's scared and she doesn't want to leave her mom and she wants her mom to protect her. And then you put that against Lucifer and his mom, and Lucifer is scared of his mom. And I think that that's a very interesting dynamic there.
Like when I watched the episode for the first time, like you beginning to wonder, like because he keep like talking, we keep hearing the characters talk about God, his dad, like when they gonna mention that he has a mom? Like, you think you have a dad and a mom, but like for like mom, like and the fact that his mom was in hell, like he'd probably be scared of what she might be doing or something. Like that could be what you could be scared of, is the anticipation, like, of what, okay, that guy is out, what is he going to do? It's like you heard that a serial killer who is after you in the past has escaped jail, and like, oh gosh, what's that person gonna do now?
That's very funny, actually, Renee. Here, it's funny. I say it out loud. But I think that's a great place to end it. Is like looking forward to season 2 and like what's going to happen. Does anybody else have anything to say about this episode before we end tonight? If not, we'll see you guys back here next week, hopefully. I'll see you guys back here to go into season 2 and figure out why Lucifer is so scared of his mom. If that's everything for tonight, have a good rest of your week, you guys.
Bye, guys.
You too. Have fun. Safe week. Stay safe. And see you next week.
Bye.
See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.